The opening of the legislature just 8 days away, supporters of same-sex civil unions are optimistic that lawmakers will pass the measure and that the new governor will approve it. Even opponents of civil unions admit that both houses of the legislature have the votes to pass the measure that would give gay and lesbian couples many of the same legal rights as married couples. Supporters have strategy to pass the controversial proposal quickly.
We'd like to actually deal with this early so that we can then focus on the other important issues, dealing with the economy, protecting jobs, finding a way to make sure that we cover their budgetary deficit. And so we would prefer not to have this linger on through session.
Something like this should be looked at very closely, so I wouldn't say to move it out that fast. I would actually like to see something like this go through conference, go through a very good vetting out process before it passes.
Governor Neil Abercrombie said he would approve a civil unions bill, so supporters say there are only technical questions to be worked out, like when the new law would take effect.
And here to help us continue this discussion this morning is Alan Spector. He's the co-chair of Equality Hawaii, and that's a group that advocates for civil union rights for gay and lesbians in Hawaii. Good morning, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And as you heard Kenny just mention, even opponents of civil unions are thinking this is going to pass both the House and the Senate. And when all said and done, and if Governor Abercrombie does sign this, do you think that the bill will look different? Do you think it'll be watered down, and you're worried about that?
No, not at all. It will essentially be the same bill that passed last year. There may be some minor tweaks here and there, but it will be the same bill.
Now, advocates of the bill are hoping that it gets passed in the beginning of the legislature, and why are you hoping that as well?
Well, it makes the most sense to pass it early. Just as the viewers heard Representative Oshiro say just a moment ago, there's so many things that are priorities for the legislature this session, especially the budget and job creation, and it really just isn't an effective use of anyone's time to have this linger on the entire session, especially since this bill has been so thoroughly vetted for the past 2 years, and it's already passed the House twice and it's passed the Senate once. The only thing that's different today in 2011 versus 2010 is that we now have a governor that has pledged his support of the bill and that he will sign it. But other than that, we have essentially the same support in the House and Senate, and if anything, we probably even have more public support as evidenced by the November 2010 elections, and now with the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it's very clear the direction that the country and the state of Hawaii is moving.
Now, people have been roaming the halls of the state capitol talking to lawmakers about this bill already. What is your personal strategy for getting this passed quickly?
Well, our personal strategy is to continue to do what works, which is what we've been doing for the past 2 years, which is we meet with legislators. We encourage members of our organization, Equality Hawaii, to contact their legislators. Very important to share personal stories about how passage of this bill will impact people's lives in a positive way. So we don't really have anything new up our sleeve because we have a recipe that works.
And finally, what about some of the tax or legal issues in regards to this? If it does pass, the federal government does not recognize civil unions, and if the state did, so how would that work out in the end?
Well, essentially in state law, same-sex couples or opposite-sex couples who form civil unions would be entitled under Hawaii law to all of the legal rights, benefits, and obligations that Hawaii grants to married couples. And the federal government would not recognize that. So that's one core issue right there that demonstrates how civil unions and civil marriages are different in terms of their different federal treatment. But in any areas in Hawaii law that are dependent upon federal law, the bill would have to be clear that Hawaii law would have to assume that the federal law recognized it.
All right, Alan Spector, thank you so much for joining us. He's the co-chair of Equality Hawaii.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to see this interview again or any other segment of our morning newscast, you can head over to the morning section of our website, KITV.com.